Hello Stalker fans, welcome back. Today we're going to take a quick look at some the paint jobs that I did for the core box, which was really just a few Stalkers, because I think it has 4 or 5, I think 5 maybe with the special Kickstarter extra Stalker models, and then the rest in this box are standees, and the replacements for the standees are in this standalone box called Zone Threats. Now, if you play a miniature agnostic game like Pulp Alley or one of these other games, this is a great box to kind of add if you want some both soldiers and like small and then larger enemies and stuff. This is really cool. Or maybe you want to Pulp Alley your own Stalker. So I don't think this is I have a feeling you'll be able to buy just this particular box at some point in the future, or if you want to keep an eye out for it. It's a great little miniature box. There's quite a few miniatures in here, and so what I've done is I've painted everything. I've painted all the miniatures. I haven't painted the terrain pieces, which there aren't many, and I haven't painted the anomalies because I can't simply prime them. Now I got a little test run on one of these things, the Poltergeist, which had a mixture of the clear plastic and the other plastic, which can be challenging because it takes the spray primer right out. So I'm going to do a video just about painting the anomalies, and I'll show off all of them, and I'll probably do all of them together next week or something like that. And I might even mix the terrain in there with it too, because there's really not much to the terrain, I don't think, as far as like, advanced painting techniques or anything really to discuss. I would like to show you though when they're done. Alright, so let's talk about the minis in here. We'll start with the base game. Stalker is not a video game that I ever played. I pretty much just liked this cover enough to be interested in this game. And then I went, and the more I learned about it, the more intrigued I was. I don't really play video games, especially like PC-based video games. At least not anymore. It's just, it's like a big time suck for me, and I don't know. I got a lot of stuff to do. I never seem to have time to sit around and really enjoy that. So most of the information I got from Stalker was from the Stalker Wiki, which is a really good source of information, and like videos. There are lots and lots of videos made about the video game. I used a lot of that as my inspiration for how to paint the different paint jobs in here. A lot of these guys are just wearing basically military clothes and with some additional anti-radiation gear and stuff like that. I kept to this sort of muted color scheme. I doubt anybody be wearing anything really flourishy out there. The one exception that I did was for the, I believe it's the scientist outfit. I really like the idea of that big orange color on that radiation suit for the scientist, holding their little box and all. So in this game, you can kind of just pick whichever of these Stalkers you like the most, and that represents you. A couple of these do match the cards. I haven't gone through the cards. I didn't try to match them to the cards or anything. I just picked my own color schemes. I used a mixture of speed paint and contrast paint and regular acrylic paint. It's kind of my standard thing. So for primer, I like to use the S.T.A.L.K.E.R primer, and then I work my way up with different layers of contrast paint. I feel like that S.T.A.L.K.E.R tone, the tone that it leaves behind, is a really good kind of medium starting point with the contrast paints. They put on sort of a thin layer on top of something else. So if you use a brighter color, sometimes it's fun to use metallics. I like to use metallics and then paint contrast paint over it, and it really gives it an interesting look, kind of like a show car look. Used a lot of dark muted tones, a lot of camouflage, a lot of dark blue and stuff like that. I didn't figure anybody would want to be standing out. It seems like a very dangerous place, the zone. And so most people are kind of in this kind of real plain camouflage. I try to do my best to kind of brighten them up with some dry brushing and stuff, even which is something you don't always do with contrast paint. Like one of the benefits of contrast paint is kind of gives you the impression of a shadow tone. But I find if you find a color that's sort of complementary, that makes sense, and you kind of dry brush it up a little bit, it gives it even a little bit more of a pop, and makes it look a lot more finished. Sometimes it works better than others, but I have a lot of regular acrylic paint. I have a really wide variety of paint to work from, so I try to pull from everywhere. So moving on to these zone threats here. I want to open this so I can remind myself what all I painted. Oh, and by the way, they fit really well in this box. And they've got a little guide to help you remember where the things go. Actually, that's already come in handy. These guys fit in here really well. They sort of pinch in back into this thing, which is makes you nervous. Like if you if you paint, like I don't put any sealant or anything. I really should probably seal these off, but I always kind of want to leave them open in case I want to paint on them some more. So I just I usually put off sealing them. Because of that, the bases get a little worn and stuff. Sometimes I don't even paint the bases if I know they're going to get pinched a lot. But the fact is, these don't come in and out of here very often. You just want to make sure that they're really, really dry before you punch them in. I don't know what it is. There's something really satisfying about putting them in a nice little holder that holds everything. And they did a good job with that. For this miniature set, this works great. I don't mind if it's a little grabby. It kind of keeps it all from floating around. Like I have my thumbs over this plastic, so I'm kind of cheating. But it's not something I feel like it's in danger of falling out. This kit has two trays, like a tray of really small stuff and a tray of bigger stuff. And it's kind of the same deal with the bigger stuff. Good spaces to hold everything. Alright, so in the smaller tray, we start off with some bandits. We've got bandits with various different rifles and shotguns. I guess maybe they're shotgunners. I haven't actually looked through the different little cards in here yet. I watched a whole lot of lore videos on YouTube and countless other things to try and get ideas for the sources of this. But sometimes it's really hard, especially if like the artwork's mostly sepia tone or something. You don't really get a sense of like the way the colors things ought to be. So the way I deal with that, and hopefully it's not too annoying, is I just kind of pick my own color scheme. I just kind of do what seems right, what makes sense. And sometimes they all match, and sometimes I'll do different colored shirts and stuff like that to kind of differentiate them. But they are game pieces. These are basically something that's just a step up from a token or a. But after all, these are game pieces. It's important to be able to see them and be able to tell what they are and make them be better than standees. Competing with standee art typically is kind of difficult at times. And I really, in fact, I appreciate those acrylic standees the most. I love those things. I would almost wouldn't mind having those instead of miniatures in some games. My idea with most of these bandits, with the various different guns and the different states of decay, I think they probably are different factions and stuff. So I made their outfits kind of similar in color and stuff like that. Then as we get down in here, we have a couple of different monsters. And so with all these monster guys, I used flesh colors from like Dark Flesh or Dark Oath Flesh to Gilliman's Flesh. Then I dry brushed them a couple of different colors. It really helps to bring out the highlights. These are, to my estimation, are just mutated Ukrainians. These are, there's like some of them are crawling over radioactive waste and stuff like that. So these are just people that have mutated. So I'm using flesh tones, sometimes darker flesh tones because they're running around naked all the time. I imagine, unless they stay out of the sun, and that's just something I don't know about. We got psychic ones in here and bloodsuckers, and the snorks were probably the most interesting of the batches there. And there's a couple of poses of each. I think for the jumping snorks, I changed their shirts around a little bit and some of their pants. The other thing that's in this is some sort of zombies. Now these guys don't look, and even in the game, like they didn't look like a funny color or anything. They just were kind of walking a little weird, and that's basically the way I did these guys. I think I put on a few of them, I put some injuries and stuff. But best I could tell, this whole bottom row here are zombies. And that approaches the last of all the stuff in uniform. If you paint a project like this, it helps to kind of break it down into little parts. And I was going to do everything that had a uniform was going to be video 1. And then the monsters was going to be video 2. But then I got through this first trade, I was like, oh, these will be easy, right? All there are the tinier ones, the smaller things, and the really big things. Both of which are pretty you paint pretty fast. What slows you down is having to do a lot of a particular thing. And speaking of a lot of particular thing, let's do with the most of in here. And that are these rodents. Baddie that in this set of monsters and stuff. And I painted them very pale. They're a very pale color with some like darker areas. I saw a bunch of different kinds. I think I saw one particular piece of artwork that kind of inspired me. The in-game artwork was kind of rough because it's like some blurry thing like that you're looking down on, so you don't really get that kind of front-on look at it. There's 6 of those rodent guys. There's 5 of the dogs. These dogs sort of look like dogs with all their skin burned off or or something. So I gave them kind of this reddish tone. A lot of the dogs that I saw in the video game footage and stuff actually look pretty normal. But there's just something about these dogs. It looks like half their front face was kind of ripped off and stuff. So they just kind of looked like dogs without skin, or like all their hair been burnt off or something like that. So kind of like the rat things, I kind of just picked my own unique color that made sense to me, and I painted them like that. The other one is the tick. Now I'm from East Tennessee where we have a lot of ticks. And the legs are kind of wrong for like a tick. They don't. It doesn't say tick with the legs, but I guess these are giant mutant ticks, so we'll give them a pass, right? So I think my tick legs, if I painted them kind of like they are now, would probably be darker. But I wanted the whole thing to stand out, especially since one of the options on this model has it attached to a person. There's two to kind of crawling over some rubble, and 2 that are attached to a dude, presumably sucking his blood away. And I wanted to make sure that they stand out, because all they are like a lump and some legs coming off the side of it. All right, now as we work our way up, now please forgive me, I've lost track of some of the names that are in here. But we've got this guy who's kind of like a medium-sized character with his radiation, his little can of radioactive material and stuff. Again, these guys are extremely easy to paint. I changed up a little bit. Like there's some of them have more green than others, but for the most part, I did a sort of a rattling grime color that I used as kind of my base. Like whatever was on the ground, I would just kind of paint it all rattling grime, and then sometimes I'd pick out certain things. Like this guy's got a cinder block sticking out there that I had to go in and decorate a bit. The other thing is this this deer animal. I don't know if it's a moose or a ram. I don't think I found. That's why I didn't really look up. I just painted it in a way that made sense to me. Really weird character. It reminds me a lot of the Kingdom Death Monster. One of the monsters in Kingdom Death Monster. Up next is the Poltergeist. Now the Poltergeist was my first venture into painting with the see-through plastic stuff. I pretty much just painted around it. I went through with a white paint and primed the base and these little objects. He's got like an oil drum and a propane tank floating around and stuff. And then I did like the rattling grime, and I picked out some of the other stuff on the bottom with metal, and just painted these 2 things. Kind of just painted around that, and I got onto the blue here or there, but not too bad. I was able to kind of paint around it, and I think it came out pretty good. That's a really interesting effect. And basically, I'll be showing you how I did all of this when I show you the anomalies, which is like a whole bunch of this. It was a good practice run for that. All right, up next we have this old man with the big hands. He looks so much different than the artwork and stuff. I really liked the artwork a lot better than this manifestation of a creature. And even like when I go back and look, granted the video game versions I saw of this guy were like super boring. And they didn't look much like what I saw on the campaign for this either. But this guy definitely is odd looking. He's not bad. I just think I like the artwork that I saw in the campaign artwork. Then we got this guy. He is the cover boy. He's this guy. And I kind of stuck with that theme. The same color scheme. Kind of a fleshy color scheme. I lightened this guy up. He got a lot of dry brushing. Again, the way these models are made, they're made to absorb these contrast paints and stuff. And then if you go and it makes them really good to dry brush too. It makes that dry brush step at the end really pay off. Up next, we got these things. I am not sure what these are. If you look at it really, it's got a real Shin Godzilla vibe. Click like if you got the reference there to Shin Godzilla. But it's sort of a conglomeration of the rodents and the dogs. So I basically gave it that sort of color scheme. Anytime I saw something that kind of looked like a dog's face, I'd paint it that kind of ruddy color that I used for this thing. And I think they're climbing over a tree, and so I made my tree color. Sometimes I'll paint with the wood, with that one of those dark wood colors, but they're so dark. And a lot of trees you'll see, especially stumps that are dead, will be gray. So I just painted the stump with regular acrylic paint, and then I went through and put some Nolanol over the top of it to darken it down and stuff. A lot of these I experimented with the camo as grass. So I did some grassy areas. Did a lot of that with the old man guy also. And that's it for this paint table update. I'll be back real soon. We're going to do a how to paint the anomalies. I'm going to do more of a how to paint on that because it won't take long to show you all those. I'm thinking for the most part I'm going to prime them and then do real simple color scheme and just kind of get them done. And I'm going to do the same for the terrain. So I'm going to do a quick paint scheme for the terrain. So if you'd like to see all that, be sure to subscribe and click like if you like this video. There'll be more if you want to see my unboxing and storage for the base soccer game and stuff. There's a link to that right there. Here's some other stuff that I've done with paint table updates. Until next time, enjoy your games. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.